Hey kids, it's Jurassic James, and on this Jurassic James Explains, we're looking at Coelurus. So this is really special to me because this is my first Jurassic World Dominion figure. I mean, neither from the actual Jurassic World, the previous line, but this is from Dominion, the new movie coming out on June 10th in 2022. So I saw it in the store and I grabbed it and I thought, why not do a video? So first and foremost, I want to point out that, but again, oldest and youngest, same rules, right, left to right. But the idea, well, my left, your right, I guess. But the idea here is very simple. When I first saw Coelurus, I was super excited because this one here, it's one of those animals that you don't see toys of. If you can make a small theropod, you go for Velociraptor, you go for Compsognathus, you go for something that's in Jurassic Park, basically. So when I first saw it, I was really excited. Now, is it super accurate? Most likely no. But the idea is that Coelurus, it was first described in 1879. It's an Morse formation, the late Jurassic North America. So I'm going to go over that in a minute. But the main thing to point out is that it's, because of its small nature, the fragmented bones they find, and taxonomy over 100 years, over 150 years at this point, a lot of names and groups have been coming in and out. But it's still a solid genus, So the idea here is that when I first saw it, it has the main points. It has three fingers on the forelimb. They're palm to palm, which is really cool for the Jurassic Park line. The very small, narrow skull. And again, it has all the parts right. Now, whether or not it has feathers like this guy, we're not sure because that environment does not preserve feathers, as we can tell right now. But the main thing to point out is that the Coelurosaur group is important because, Coelurus is a part of Coelurosaurus, which, if you look at the bigger picture, in predatory theropods, there's the Carnosaurs, which are the big meat eaters. Think Allosaurs, Giganosaurs, and within Carnosauria, there are subgroups, and like we think about the Spinosaurs, the Megalosaurs, kind of. The Coelurosaurs, on the other hand, are usually the feathered dinosaurs. So think of your raptors, your rexes, some rexes, oviraptors, those guys. So, or even the gallimimus, those guys too. So they're some of the earliest members of that branch. So they're really special in evolution, but again, not so much the individual specimen to some people, to most people. So again, you have the actual animal here, and then they have a repaint. I'm sucker for repaints, but want to point out the feet are always really big because it's more of an engineering balance thing. But overall, I mean, if you're making a small theropod, you're not terribly wrong. The skull, to me, looks very, quote, generic theropod. I'm not sure, because I've seen the skull itself, the actual animal. It's not, or seen reproductions of the skull, and it's kind of different than this, but overall, it gets some point across. For our main focus right now is the Minion figure. I'm going to go ahead and get the official scissors. The feet are big, so they can stand, but it falls. Anyway, the official scissors, Jurassic James. Jewel encrusted, my birthstone. Let's see, so now, very official. There's no card or anything, so it's the box. But one thing they're doing here is, two things they're doing with the Dominion figures is one, you see like the dino damage there, you push a button and it shows injuries, so you kind of see that. And it has it on both sides, actually. Well, let me do that. Also, what's really neat is that they have if you pull out this, it's like a DNA thing. So in the original line, they had the DNA code there. I know everything's about phones and technology, but I found, given that I was born in the last century, I found it interesting that you get a toy and then there's a code you scan to look on your phone. Like the toy's enough. That's my age. But now they have this, instead of having that scanning code, they still have the logo on the foot, but they have this DNA, and I'm pretty sure you scan that too probably. But the idea is that there's a DNA code because, of course, one of the themes of the new movie, from my understanding, is the technology of Henry Wu, the dinosaurs being cloned and all that, is now out, and other companies are doing it. So these codes are very important. But for the figure itself, it does maintain. I mean, it's slightly bigger than the first one. And, a 10-year-old James with, looking for a species and breeding population would be like male, female, bigger feathers, Again, we don't have proof the animal has feathers, but we know it's in the line of animals we do know it has feathers, so it implies it does. The name Coelurus actually means hollow tail because the tail caudal vertebrae were hollow, and some of the neck vertebrae as well. They're very light animals. I mean, they're about wolf size, basically. Well, not even wolf size. A little bit. I mean, they're like large turkey size, But again, the injury back. So it's a really cool animal. Now, the importance of it too, are just two things: its relationships and its environment. So it sits on the family tree of theropods has been debated, thrown around. It's been thought to be a member of the Tyrannosaur group, early member, But right now, the view mainly is these early basal theropods, well, I say basal, but these early Jurassic Coelurus. Its closest relatives are thought to be now, this is North America. In Germany, late Jurassic, we have Confidentatus, made famous by Jurassic Park. And then, of course, there's one called Ornitholestes, which was made famous by Walking with Dinosaurs in the late 90s. So actually, Ornitholestes lives in the same environment as Coelurus, the Morrison area. And so these, not to scale, but they're all these tiny theropods, hollow bones, and it's their grouping that leads to Raptors and Rexes, whereas the Allosaurus rule there. Speaking of that, let me show you its environment. Let's see. So if you are being time period sensitive, you want to really show off your Coelurus just right. So here's this tiny little theropod. Ornitholestes here. Coelurus, by comparison, was more thought to be more agile than this one. And from this point on, the scale is not quite to point, but you would have Ornitholestes living with, Coelurus living with Ornitholestes, living with Stegosaurus and Camptosaurus, which is like an iguanodon, but or an iguanodon ancestor or cousin that had 4 toes instead of 3. There's, of course, our Ceratosaurus, which I mentioned this earlier. I've mentioned the Morse information before. And, of course, Allosaurus. And then if you have them, a Diplodocus, your Apatosaurus, and, oh, you fell, Brachiosaurus, and Cambrisaurus. There's also small herbivores like Dryosaurus here. So the late Jurassic Morse formation is actually, I think, my favorite time period. It's not just named Jurassic James for a reason. The idea is that it's this age of giants with all these sauropods, and more than these, there's like Barosaurus and Brontosaurus too, living together in this environment, and they're migrating in and out. So again, as far as lifestyle goes, imagine something between a jackal and a turkey for Coelurus. It's a small scavenger predator. I'm pretty sure when these animals were breeding and they had tiny babies, this guy was taking advantage of that. But again, once the offspring got to a certain age, they were on the, everyone's bigger than they are for the most part. So when their offspring are small, they can probably go in and attack, eat like that. But once they get to a certain size, too bad. But guess what? Every year they reproduce, these guys. So there's a constant food supply. Anyway, I'm not sure why I got into eating dinosaur babies, but the point is, looking at the environment, we have all these animals together, the same environment. And so when you're putting together your ecology, like some animals, like I did a Castinia last week, that animal, there's no other dinosaur that I'm aware of in this environment. I mean, there would have been, but they don't find as many in that site. So the idea is that you're kind of, it's kind of like an island basically there. Whereas with these guys, you have this full established ecology, and you know the animals who are there, you're finding the remains. That's kind of fun. That being said, let's see. So for those of you who are lucky enough to be young enough to play with dinosaur toys, I could imagine if you can get all of these guys together, that in the quote mating or dating season, that the males are like flashing, and and it's one of those things where as a paleontologist, I often just there's things we can never imagine. So how diverse birds are today in their appearance, in their lifestyle, and also in how they select mates. That some birds just sing. The same species of bird over hundreds of miles may sing differently, like a dialect pretty much, or an accent, if you will. How some birds make nests to attract the mates or find an area. Like, I'm pretty sure these guys did something like that. I mean, they weren't modern bird savvy or same brain capacity, but there would have been some kind of primitive or animal-like culture where there would have been mate selection and if not fighting or displaying and stuff like that. As of right now in our current technology, we just don't know. So it's interesting to me to just imagine what could have been there, how could it have worked, and the toys let me do that, of course. But with that being said, this is the Jurassic World Dominion Coelurus. I hope you get yours too. It's one of those, obviously they're going to probably do a repaint. They're going to have more different designs, and may not even be in a movie. But again, it's a really cool animal because it represents an animal that no one cares about for the most part. So that's why I like it. That being said, there are bubbles and buttons to subscribe and all that around me. Pick one, do all of them, play it, do a playlist, who knows. And I think, and this will actually conclude the one-year series of dinosaur toy reviews. I will have two videos coming up about just like random, like Jurassic World toys that I'm reviewing themselves, telling stories about. But overall, the actual every week dinosaur video thing I'm done here. So let me know in your comments if you want to see more of this, less of this, what your thoughts are. That being said, thank you very much, and I'll see you later.